Okay, I think we are ready to begin. So, hi, welcome everyone to this SAGA session. Tonight we will listen to Rikke Munchkin Sørensen, who will talk about Fastaval and the best practices for pitching a board game for their board game program. Before we begin, I just want to mention that SAGA is a Swedish annual game design award, and these SAGA sessions are held to spread knowledge and share information about board game design. And we hold them 2 times each month, and we invite a guest who will talk about the topic of their choice. Yes. We hold them in collaboration with Studiefrämjandet Stockholm and the Swedish Discord channel Spill Design Bubble. Let's see. Yes, and tonight we have, as I mentioned, we have invited Rikke, who has been one of the organizers for the board game program at Fastaval for 3 years in a row. Or
it's the 4th year now, but I have been 3 years.
Yeah, okay. And she is one of the persons who pick the games for the program. So she knows everything there is to know about what to pitch to Fastaval and what's not to pitch. So without further ado, I will let you do your presentation, and afterwards we will have a questions and answer session. So if you have any questions, I think save them for the Q&A. And okay, welcome, Rikke, and thank you for coming.
Thank you too for having me. Now we don't have a lot of video on people, but just wondering how many people here have been to Fastaval already, and especially who has not, just to sort of feel like what to talk about. All right. So I am going to talk first a bit about what Fastaval is. This is, of course, mainly for people who have not been there, but I think also those who have been there might get some new information from what I'm telling, going a bit into the history and everything, to understand what sort of beast it is, and then after that, how to pitch for it, and what's the procedure there, and what to think about. So today's program is going to be, what is Fastaval at all? What happens if you get into the design program, and what kind of games do we want, and how do you make a good pitch for FB, which is Fastaval in common abbreviation. And now I just need to figure out how to actually change my slide when I'm out here. Go here. Good. Yep. So, what is Fastaval? Well, it is the biggest game convention in Denmark. Maybe it's one of the 2, both claiming to be the biggest. We have like 1,000 participants each year, who are some role players, some board gamers, some hangarounds, some lots of geeks and nerds of different kinds, from 10 or more countries also. So like the main bulk is Danish participants, but we have quite a handful of quite a bunch of other nationalities too. So there's quite an effort put into making it accessible for people who don't speak Danish. So don't hesitate to go if you're not Danish, which is why I'm here today. And every year there's a program of 25 or more new role-playing games, which has been written just for the occasion of Fastaval, and there are also 20 plus new board games, which is where you guys come in. And then there's lots of other activities. So like last year, for example, we had Guest of Honor. We have that every year. We also have game reallocation of board games being distributed between people. There's a bar, there's a swimming pool, sometimes open. There's been live Stratego, folk dance, figure painting, karaoke, and actually last year there even was a wedding by people who met at Fastaval and got engaged at Fastaval and then married at Fastaval. So it's quite a thing. It all began in 1986 with the first Fastaval, which was of course smaller than it is now. Things have developed over the years and have gone more or less crazy. And back then it was mainly role-playing games. We still had the program of a bunch of new scenarios. You could also go and borrow some published board games, and there were a few tournaments, like maybe a Warhammer tournament or Magic or something. And then in 1992, after 6 years, they invented the autos, the gold penguins you see over here, which was sort of made as an encouragement to make better role-playing games. Back then, we didn't have the privilege we have now. They sort of have to drag authors to please write something for Fastaval. And now it's like, hey, who wants to write? We'll pick one.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't think you're sharing your screen anymore.
I'm not sharing my screen. That's annoying.
No. So we can't see the beautiful auto.
No, the problem was when I shared just a moment ago, then I couldn't change the slide. So I had to go into my slides to actually share it. So do you have a suggestion to how I then change things in here?
Can you use your keyboard arrows?
Nope. That's what I've been saying.
Oh.
Any other suggestions from anyone? That's very welcome.
And just clicking 1, 2.
Guessing you've tried spacebar?
Nope.
Oh.
It's like it's not connected. Probably it's like it's just showing my screen but not interacting with it somehow.
And now it disappeared again.
Yeah, I took it away on purpose here, but I just like share this window. Let's PowerPoint slide. What if we do it like this? Nope, same. All right, so there's your technical issues of the day. So sometimes it does show. Did you follow me this far?
Yeah, we could see this part.
Problem is I can't see your screen while I see my own with the presentations here. I'm just going to click back and forth to just check you're still with me.
Yep.
So here are the autos that I was talking about. You're still here? Good. Yep. So as I said, it was sort of to incentivize people to make some better role-playing games because some of them were honestly kind of crappy while others were really good. So they would award the best ones, say like, this is what you should aim for and try to make. And then in 2012, that's where the board game program started. So that's when some people said, oh, hey, we have all these lovely scenarios in the program. Why not have some board games too, and maybe try to develop some community and see where that can take us to. So that's what Fastaval is and how it started, but there's also some things that Fastaval is not, that people sometimes think it might be, but it's not. Like, it's not a place to look for publishers. It's not like Essen or something. It's not in its essence a dedicated board game thing. It's a role-playing board game, all of the kinds of things thing. That's mainly about entertainment we make for each other and with each other. So if you're looking for publishers or want to do a lot of marketing for your game, blah, 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 that's not really what Fastaval is. It's also not a test event. So if you do get on the program, it's not to be like, oh, I want to publish my game someday. I can just test this here like I test on other conventions. The goal is to sort of have like a whole experience. We know the games might develop further later. Nothing against that. But just that when you're at Fastaval, it should be like the players sense this is a whole experience as a game. This works as a game. It's not like I was asked to test something halfway through and see where that could go, but it doesn't really work yet. All right. So the idea behind it all, like why it started and why we keep doing this, is our main goal. First goal is to make a great program for Fastaval's participants. There's a lot of awesome different kinds of board games that they can try out that's brand new and not just whatever you take down from the shelves. And also to build or expand the design community. I think in 2012 it was quite small in Denmark, and there was a lot of work put into making people meet, find each other, and make test events, that kind of thing. We have a quite well-functioning one now. And as you can see, we're also reaching abroad, and especially to Sweden, where we have a lot of collaboration. So that's why, I'll get to that a bit later. Basically, it's not just like a sign up, then show up with your game on the day. It's like this whole process of developing it alongside each other, because we want people to meet and exchange ideas and tips on what to do and where to go with this and that. And then I just want to mention that maybe you noticed I haven't said the word board game competition at all yet until just now. And that's very much on purpose. I know a lot of people call it that, and but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to call it a board game program rather than a competition. Because as you can see, our goals are to make great programs, so that's sort of our main focus. And if it's a competition, then it's sort of like the whole main goal is to find out which is the best game out there in the entire world in theory, which it's not really about. So we have the autos, but they're more like awards for something that's already there, just like if you make a movie, you're not in the Oscar competition, or if you write a book, you're not in the Nobel Prize competition. You're making a book, you're making a movie, you're making a game. We have this great program for a lot of people, and you go and have fun with them, and they have fun with you, and open each other's eyes to this whole board game design thing. So for us, the whole auto thing is really a bit of a sidetrack. Like us, when I say us, I mean us organizers of this board game program. So I'm not going to police anybody to say anything specific. I'm just going to say this is what I say and why I choose to say so, and that's generally what we agreed on in the group. So if you do get in, if you get the game on the program, what happens then? As I said, it's not just like pitch, get in, show up, play. There's this process where we want to make sure that things develop and that you meet each other. So right now we're in August. Can you see my arrow here? Yes, no, maybe? Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, right. You see both of them. Awesome. That's kind of confusing. So follow the big one, I think. Am I pointing at July, August now from your view?
July.
July. Okay, it's a small one then. So you don't see the other arrow. That's just mine. Great. So August, that's where we are now. That's where you've got your ideas. You've tested a little bit, and then you can pitch. And then by the 31st of August, we have a deadline, and you send your pitches, and then the four of us sit down and we read through all of them and figure out which ones we want to have on the program. And then the ones who get in, they get in this Facebook group. We'll also get information by email, of course, if you're not on Facebook, but everybody on Facebook will be invited to this group where you can type with each other. And then in there's a lot of information being spread, and there's also shared, and there's also this design test phase where that's your focus for this month. And then in December-ish, it would be a good idea to start writing the rules. Because we have the autos, we have some people being auto judges and the jury who decide on which game should be awarded for the best innovation or the best presentation or the best game and whatnot. And they need to read all the rules and play all the games because they want to make a thorough evaluation of this thing and see what is actually like the best one in each category. So you send in your rules, typically around February, and then aside along you start producing the game, and usually you'll need to bring a few copies because the way things work at Fastaval is that we have a program running from Wednesday evening until Saturday evening, and every day there are a bunch of time slots, and you will be given 3 of those time slots where you will be there in a room, present your game to people who have signed up to play it. And there will typically be more than for just one game, so you need a few copies to cover the amount of people who are interested in playing it. So and then of course we have Fastaval, the big main event where you present your games and people play them and everything is fun and games, literally. And then afterwards you will get some feedback. This is both from the judges who have themselves down and actually looked at it quite thoroughly and written a lot of details on what they think about this and that in the game, but also what the players have written down during Fastaval and just said, well, I think this was good because this, or I think this could be better, or whatever. So you get a lot of feedback about what people thought of your game. So that's the basic of what Fastaval is and what happens when you're there and you're part of the whole process here. We organize will of course be in the group too and help you along the way, and help set some deadlines, which I know I can always use when I'm doing board game. So it's nice to have some structure on that. So now the big question of how to pitch. And the first rule is that you target it, just like a job application. If you're applying for different jobs, you need different location. You can't just take the same one and then throw them out to 50 different places and expect them to feel like they get what they need for information. So whether you're pitching for a publisher, pitching for a Fastaval, pitching for another convention or film competition out there, you need to figure out like what is it they want to know, what is it I should write here for them to get what they need. And publishers, for example, they want sell sheets, they want 1 page, very simple, with the main thing, and we really don't want that. Sometimes we do get what looks a lot like somebody just took the sell sheet from the drawer and sent it to us, and then we go like, A, it doesn't give us the information we need, and B, it feels like a lack of effort, like they didn't really figure out what Fastaval is and just like, hey, well, try my thing over here. So we really like things to be targeted at Fastaval. So some differences here is sell sheets should usually be one page max, because they have limited time, just need a brief overview, what's going on here, should we contact them for further information. We need to have all the information at once, so we can usually get like 2 or 3 pages, and if you have a lot of pictures, that's fine to have more pages. There's not like an official page limit, but we do not want to read a novel, please. So like 3 pages just of text, and then we'll get a little strained. But you don't need to limit yourself to 1 page is the main message here. Just make sure you get the information down that we actually need with some good informative pictures. On the sell sheet, you just need like brief sell points and catchphrases. You just like catch the attention, while we actually need explanations that help us understand your game and figure out what is this thing. We're not going to contact you and ask for further information. We're going to use this to decide, do you get on the program or not? And sell sheets for a publisher, they really need a component list because they want to figure out how much does it cost to produce this thing. Is it like just a card game? Is it tons of specific minis that will be very expensive to produce? Well, we have no idea. We don't really care at all about components. I mean, when I say no components, please, I mean, of course, you can have components in your game, just not component list for us, please. Because it's not our problem in a way. Like, you are going to produce the game that will come to Fastaval. So you will worry about like, can I make this thing working out with these components? But it's not really important to us. And if it's there, that's a sign that people just set the sell sheet. We also need some additional info that they might not need. That's where it is. Like, what point of development are we at? So is it brand new idea, or have you worked on it for years, or are we like close or far away? And again, to why later things. And also, it's nice to know what is the game experience, what sort of feeling will you invoke in the players, and what is going to be like a hectic thing, or like very meditative, or what's going on here, and a bunch of other things that I might we'll get into here later. So we, the organizers, we are 4 people, and we read all the pitches, and then when we read one pitch, we ask ourselves, 1, do we understand how the game works? Like, do we understand the pitch? Does it convey what we need to know? Because sometimes you might have made the best game in the world, or maybe making the best game in the world, but if we don't read that in the pitch, then we can't know, and then it won't get in. So we need to understand like what is actually going on, what sort of game should we expect this to be in the end. And then, of course, does it fit our participants at Fastaval? I'll use the details of it later. And does it sound fun and interesting? Does it have new interesting ideas, some sort of innovation? And how far are you in the process, as mentioned before? So details of this is, do we understand what's going on? Describe it clearly and concisely, so we see like, yeah, it's a game that works roughly this way. You put these things over here, and the interesting bit is that you have this thing that works with this other thing, or whatnot. Not the whole rule set, just like an understanding of what's going on and what's fun about this game. So it's also good to use plenty of pictures, and like some close-ups of relevant parts of the game. If you have like a big screen, big away, then we can't see, or if they're muddy or something, then we can't really see what's going on there. So pictures really help us along with the text describing like what you see in this picture, it isn't this. So they're always good to have, and they can easily take up like half a page each. That's fine. And when you've done writing your pitch, have somebody else read through it. And it's better if it's somebody who doesn't know the game already, because you might think this is very clear because boom, and I know my game and it's described perfectly, but then somebody goes like, I don't know your game, so I don't understand this. And that's the situation we're in. So it's good to have somebody check through, does this make sense or does it not? All right, and here's some examples from my own game. Here we have like a nice picture showing that people are having fun and having feelings about the game, but you can't really see what's going on down there in the middle. So that's why it's not super good for the pitch situation. We'd rather have some more close-ups, which are not as fussy as this one is actually. This is like the clearer one here, more zoomed in, and then of course zoom in on the details you want. You might also actually just go, well, here are some cards that show what's going on, and describe them, of course. Or in my case, there were some characters that would be described very briefly that you could show here. Or, of course, the very first beautiful picture of prototype, because it doesn't have to be super flashy and polished and look like I'm like a million already. It can be, well, I put some post-its to mark this thing, but you can see from the post-its what's on it and the text that this is what's going on. That's fine. We just need to figure out what's happening here. So the question, does it fit our participants? Because you might have the best world in the game, best game in the world that just doesn't really fit the people that we have playing. We are making a program for our participants, so we want games that will make them have fun. So who are our participants? Well, the target group is 15 to 55-year-old geeks. So we have a common interest in board games and role-playing games in general, but of course still have very varied tastes. So there's quite a lot of leeway actually. So we can do with some light and some heavy and some medium games. We don't want them all to be heavy or all light. We want a good distribution of a bit of everything. And all kinds of genres too, mechanics and moods. So if we get 5 pitches for a great pirate deck builder game, we will not have 5 pirate deck builder games on the program. We'll just have one of them, even if they're all the best of the bunch here. There's also some practicalities about the play time that should be somewhere between 20 minutes and 3 hours, because we have these time slots. So Fastaval is not really geared towards a game that will be like 8 hours focused at the game table, because people want to do other things and play other games and go to the bar and have all the other activities going on. So in general, we have a maximum of 3 hours, including explaining the rules. If something outstanding happens, then we can make exception, of course. Might get to that later. And then, of course, it should not be finished yet, because we want to have this idea of building community. So we want you to finish your games with each other while interacting and sparring and sharing experiences. So if you just say, I have a game, it's done, it's in the drawer, I'll just bring a Fastaval, then it might be a great game, but you will not be part of the community. You'll just be there and then show up in 7 months, and we won't have this whole great thing. I think people who have been there would agree that it's really a great experience to be with all these designers, because generally board game designers are a really supportive bunch and really nice and welcoming and helpful. And that just really shows also at Fastaval, and I just get happy being there, looking at everybody, helping each other out and applauding for each other. And so that's why we want you to be a group, not just individuals doing their things. Though, of course, a lot of board game design is on your own. But we also want your game to be far enough that we think it can reasonably be done by Fastaval. So we don't have something half-finished at that point. Because, as I said, we want the players to have experience of this is a whole game. This is great. This is them. So next question is, does it seem fun or interesting? Admittedly, that's quite subjective. Of course, who thinks what is fun, who thinks what is interesting, but we are for people with different people with different tastes, so that's one start. And also we think of the participants and we go like, what would they like? What's our experience of the participants at Fastaval? So there have been games after that got in while we were looking at each other going like, I'm not really interested in that game, nor am I, nobody really was, but it's this kind of game. It looks like a good thing in its genre, and we know there are players who want to play that. So we're trying really to be as objective as we can in the situation. And this is also where it's good for us to know, have the description of what experiences the players sit with, because it gives an idea of like, okay, yes, we have players who would enjoy this kind of thing. So next question is, does it have some interesting new ideas? And that does not mean it have to be groundbreaking, the new, oh, I invented deck building or whatnot. Cool if it does, awesome. We'll be very pleased with that, but we don't expect it because, I mean, games are what they are. But if you make new combinations, no mechanics or something, or go like, oh, I have a twist on this, or we haven't seen this combination before, that's really great. But with that being said, it's not mandatory, but we do really like an odd, weird, unpublished ideas, and are often trying to have some like safe bets where you go like, this would definitely please our participants, but also some like, oh, is this even a game? I am not sure. What are we doing with this? But we need to try it out. Or this is a crazy idea that's not very far advanced, and it might flunk, but it might also be great and interesting. We just want to be open to some people having a room for that. And that's why also I'm not super hooked about calling competition, because we're not claiming the best game in the world. There are pitches we have said will not be on the program at Fastaval, but they've gone on to be published and be very popular. And we have games that come to Fastaval that will never ever be published because that's just not in the cards. Like, for example, out here on the right picture, we see a game that it's not a bunch of games set up. It's one game for 30 people playing over 48 hours on the past Fastaval. Which is not really going to be published in, I think, because who would want to buy a game where you need 48 hours plus, where people can come and go? That's also the exception from the 3-hour rules, because if they said we want to have people focused here on 48 hours straight, that would be an issue. But they said people can come, do their thing, go away, come back an hour later or 3 hours later and do their thing, and then in the end they will have this whole game experience. So it's like, well, that's weird and unknowledgeable and sounds very suitable for Fastaval. People are there for a long period of time and we'll have lots of other activities. So we tried that out. And here we have a picture of just all the people milling around doing all the things that is involved in the game. So that's the kind of like, whoa, this is sort of off that we really like to have sometimes. Next question is, how developed is it? So was it like a brand new idea? You haven't actually really tested it, or did you test it a few times and you show some promise in this in that regard? I think you could go this way, or maybe test it plenty of times. There's a good core game and just need some balancing, or just let us know where you are. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just good for us to know. Is it very new? Is it very developed? Is it in the sweet spot of it will be done by Fastaval, but it still needs some work? And then of course we try to also balance what goes in a sense of we want to have both some very developed and some that might be more complicated and some simple that are not tested yet, and just give room for a lot of different kind of games and stages of games. And we actually also look at who the designer is. So of course we need games to be good, but we also very deliberately choose based on if they're debutants at Fastaval or have been here before. So we want both some new and some old people, or experienced people, and also nationality and gender and that kind of thing. So we try to be as diverse as we can, both on the program and in the designer group. So in summary, you should ask yourself, is it understandable? Does it fit the participants? Is it fun and interesting? Does it have new different ideas? What's the point of development? Have you added all the pictures that are needed for explain your thing? And have you had a proofreader have a look at not so much spelling, but does this actually make sense? And that went a lot faster than I thought. So I think we're actually at the end now. The deadline is the 31st of August, just before midnight. So we hope to hear from you. And now I'm open to questions. I hope I didn't speak too fast and you understand what I said.
I think that was a great overview of both Fastaval and the board game program. Thank you very much for your presentation. And yes, let's open up for questions. Do we have any from the audience? Then please raise your hand or write in the chat. Daniel has raised his hand.
Hello, Rikke. Thank you for a great presentation. I've been to Fastaval a few times, or 2 times by now. So with that in mind, I'm mainly wondering if there are any changed things or any improvements you have planned for the coming year. Thank you.
In what regard, do you mean for the pitch process or for what we do at Fastaval?
Oh, for the designer competition overall, have you changed anything from the previous years, or are there any big problems you're trying to address with anything you've changed to the format or that sort of stuff?
We're not expecting major changes. We are mainly looking at if we can get some more flexibility when in the time slots when people change there. We have at the moment 3 rooms where one game goes in and then another game has to come after them, and then they have to overlap a bit to make the program work. And while we can't magic out more time, more hours, we are trying to look at if we somehow, and also we have tried to get another room, but rooms are not the most important resource at Fastaval because all the role-playing games need a room each for each group, and it's just hard to get too many of them. We are working on our main organizer, but not super hopeful on that. We're trying to see if we could do something to say, well, your time slot will end at Q2 and then push them away. So that might either mean taking in fewer games or shorter games, or trying to, well, that 4th room would really come in handy, but we'll see what we can do about it. So what we're looking at, we haven't really decided anything specific yet on what to do about it or found any solutions. Options, of course, welcome. Jasper?
Hello. I was wondering, because your sheet showing what is the festival audience and what games are suitable for festival was super broad.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you have examples of pitches or games that have been rejected in the past. Maybe you can anonymize it a bit if you want, but on the basis of this is not suitable for festival.
Yeah. So first of all, if it's a very children's game, I mean, we can have family games that adults enjoy too, but if you have like, this is the greatest game for 4 or 5 years old, we don't have a lot of 4 and 5 years old at Fastaval, so that's not really relevant. And we also had a few pitches that were like very mainstream thinking of games in the way that just like, oh, I have a board, you roll the dice, you move around, and then you talk about something, or like basically snakes and ladders. Then it's like, that's maybe a bit too simple for our audience. But it is very broad. I mean, we do have a very varied taste at Fastaval.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Amy? You should unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Question, could you elaborate a bit more on like what exactly happens if if your game is selected? Like what is the design kind of process like, and what sort of support and structured process is there? If you could just give a bit more detail on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I can try. Let's see if I can go back to the thing. Let's see, bad thing about. So, I mean, you are still largely going to make your own game, of course. But we have some like tapping in the group, and you can ask there, how do I go about this, and really interact with each other. And we also have a test event usually that is specifically for Fastaval games around January, February, where you still have time to make changes. But and I think that's always a great way to both try out your games. We make one usually in Copenhagen and Aarhus. So, I mean, people not living there might have an issue, but that's what we have. And we also share, of course, if there are some general test events in your area. And then we also like you can always ask us organizers if there's something specific for us, but also just in the group, like, hey, can somebody read through my rules and give me some feedback on that, or whatever it is you need, or like I have this component issue, or this thing isn't working. How could I do it differently? So I think the support is mainly the community in there, and of course we help with all the practicalities and keeping track of things and what's the deadlines and that sort of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank
Yes.
you.
Just got a cat on my desk. I hope she doesn't interfere with the computer.
Yes. Are there any themes of games that would not be accepted at Fastaval?
I can't say in advance. I think that might be case by case thing we discuss in the group. If there are some very controversial things, we might go like, yeah, maybe not, or maybe we go like, that's super cool and edgy or something. It's getting a little bit specific now, and it also may vary with the group of organizers that year. But I remember one case where there was a game that was based very much on a real and recent murder case, where I at least felt that it was inappropriate to use other people's misery as entertainment. So that got a no based on that from me, at least. Whereas if there had been a fictive thing, a fictive trial, that might have been cool. But the whole, oh, this recently happened and now we're gonna make a game about it, was like, that rubbed me the wrong way. But I mean, of course, there are almost always some fantasy games and some sci-fi games, but we also like to see like weird little themes. We have pirate penguins. We've had my game where you're at a retirement home trying to off the lady who has a good room, but in a humorous way, and all kinds of different things. So we're quite broad, but sometimes we go like, yeah, that one maybe doesn't. But I think many games you can change the theme. So it's usually not, it's usually more about the game experience, though of course the theme affects what's going on there. And I personally am a sucker for weird, funny themes.
That's good to know. Mo?
That does not mean that you will automatically get in if you have one of those. We are for people to decide. It's also about the game mechanics and everything. Yeah,
That's good.
Mo?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the presentation and information. It's very different from what I expected. I thought it would be you have to have a game ready to go completely. What is your production standard in terms of paper and pieces and all of that good stuff?
Very good question. And very good you're here then, so you get some information of what is and what is not. So what it has to be is it has to be playable. And some people go full on and have like professional components, but it's not necessary. It's fine if you have card sleeves with your own printouts in it with a card to make it hard, and have things printed from your computer and put onto cardboard. So it's up to people what they want to do, but as long as it's the components are playable and maneuverable. So you can print your cards, you can just do them yourself, and such, as long as it doesn't affect the experience of playing the game. So there's quite some leeway there too. Are there any other questions out there? Yeah, yes.
Sorry, struggling with the buttons. Maybe this is difficult for you to answer, but is there any difference in perspective of or criteria between the organizers and the judges at Fastaval?
That is a good question, and it might be difficult to answer. Well, I know. I mean, we decide what they get to look at, and then they look at that and decide what do they think is best of that. Specifically with the Andromeda game I showed you before, with the 30-player thing. When I was voting for that, somebody in the Elsewhere group said, no, we can't take that because the judges won't be able to judge it. Fuck the judges. I don't care about them. As I said, the whole award thing is like on the side from my perspective. So that's what they need to figure out. And they did figure it out in the end, and did actually get judged then. And everything was fine. But I think the perspective is mainly different in the way that we go for, we want variety and we want good stuff in all genres, while they go for, okay, so what of this we have is best in a genre. I have actually been on both sides of the table. I have been an output jury too. And it was a very different process, of course, and a bit of a different way of thinking. They know a lot more about your games than we do in the end. I mean, we've seen it along the way, we've seen development, we've seen roughly what's going on, but they really dive into the detail and go like, well, here we have this thing, and the difference between who wins or not, or gets nominated or not, might be like, well, there's this teeny tiny error in the or thing that could have been more clear in the rules or something. Well, we just go, oh, did your players have fun? Great. And are you happy with your game? That's the goal, really. And
Yeah, so it's more a different mindset that you take into the role than different criteria per se. Yeah.
Tobias?
Yes, I was just curious, is there any kind of theme or mechanic that you think have been missing from Fastaval in the years that you have been selecting pitches?
I mean, I haven't really thought, oh, there should be one about flamingos. Why is it not in the pitches? But as I said, like, if we get 10 games about pirates or 10 games with deck building, then we'll just choose a few of those, and it might be a great game. So that's also actually an important piece of information for everybody who's pitching, that just because your pitch is rejected does not mean it's a bad game. It just means it didn't fit the program this year for us. It might still go out and do awesome, and it might be good for another year at Fastaval, who knows? But it didn't fit this year. I think that could just be, well, there were 10 pirate games or whatever. Now I mention pirates a lot, but did I actually answer your question? Did I just derail?
Yeah, it's okay. I understand you don't want to point to a specific theme.
No, I think it's more that we haven't felt like something was missing. We might feel too much of this, but like, oh, this thing is not there. Why is it not there? Because I think the only thing we really need is fantasy, sci-fi, and something else. And then a number of each, of course, to have.
Because I had a follow-up, and the follow-up was that, is there anything you have seen too much of? Yeah.
Yeah, but that sort of varies with the year. I mean, fantasy and sci-fi are quite common in various versions, and pirates also sometimes. Anything outside that will often be its own. So we have like sci-fi, fantasy, pirates, anything else. So if it's not one of the three things, there might be a bigger chance, but don't bend your game to make it fit that, because you never know when it could be there on a two pirates game this year or whatever. So if it's important for your game to have this or that theme, then keep it. But if it doesn't really matter, you can also say it could be a different theme or something. And we have them change sometimes. I remember one year we had one game of a certain kind that was not one of the three, and then we was like, oh, can we take the other one because it's sort of the same, maybe it was cooking or something. And then we're like, okay, we'll take one more, that's okay. And then during the process that we're looking at here, like the month from September to April, a third game went like, actually my game works more like a cooking game. Like, okay, now we have three. So we can't always predict what's going on, because games will change along the way, especially if they're not super developed when we get them. But again, our goal is the participants at Fastaval. So people sometimes ask, like, am I allowed to change my game to this because it wasn't what I pitched? But like, well, does it make it a better game? Does it make for happier players when you get a Fastaval, then go for it.
That's a great answer, I think.
Which
Thank you.
actually also brings me to the perspective with the judges and us is actually on the program, there's a distinction. Like we have some deadlines. One of them is that you have to make a presentation for the Fastaval program so people can read what's your game about. Should I sign up for that one? And that's a hard deadline. If you don't meet that, you will not be on the program. You'll be taken off. But then we also have like the rules, sending them to judges and sending also, you also have to send a copy of the game to the judges because they need to play before Fastaval. They don't have time at Fastaval to play through them all. And if you don't meet those, it could be, well, you're not part of the competition for the Otto Awards, but you're still on the program. We still want you to come and have fun and play with the players. You just won't be judged by the jury. So there are these like 2 layers where we focus on the program and the players and your game. And we have people go like, oh, well, I can't meet that deadline, but I'll still come because I want to be part of this. And that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
No?
What is the story of Otto?
Well, I have to visit Wikipedia for that, actually. There is Fastaval is on Wikipedia, obviously, of course, and the idea was to have something like an Oscar and then Otto and Oscar, sort of like, but it was actually named after a penguin or a character in the 1989 game that had a very Greenlandian name that I cannot pronounce. And it was based on a what do they call it? Like a piggy bank, except it's a penguin bank. Like when you were a member of this bank as a kid, you would get a plastic penguin with a slot in the back you could put your money in. And the first Ottos were actually just one of those plastic penguins spray painted with golden paint. Then at some point, some made up like a plaster figure. Yeah. And a few of the oldies have one on the shelves, like the original light plastic version that's just spray painted the piggy bank. But then they took that one and made a form out of plaster, and then made it into a plaster form so they could shape them like in a heavier and more, and didn't have to buy new plastic penguins every time. And then at some point recently, I think it was actually maybe 22. They went like, well, this is a thing. You may have noticed that I put the penguin on here in the beginning, maybe also actually by the end. Yeah, here. Because that's our logo down there in the right corner, with Otto, who is like a big part of Fastaval's DNA and is like the mascot. So at some point I decided, well, it's kind of maybe copyrighted with the Pingo penguin, that is called. So they actually had a designer make a new shape. So if you got an Otto after 22, it will look different from the ones before. And also, I think it is 3D printed now. And then the beak doesn't break as easily. There have been drunk and happy designers and authors going up and getting the penguin, oh yay, and then dropping it and the beak falling off or something. So they're a bit more sturdy now. I'm sure the name Otto is also because Oscar, like Oscar the Otto, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. I think it has become to be taken more and more seriously. That was more like a fun and game things then, but then now it's something really strive and try to like do better. And that's also, I was a judge in 22, and we added a few Ottos. Then we had 2 before, just best game and best innovation. And then we added best presentation, which is about what are the rules, good and easy to understand, and does the board look nice and like the arrows point the right way and it's easy to follow what's going on. You get enthusiastic about this thing. And then the participants award, which is solely based on how the participants like your game. But when we decided which one to make, we very deliberately want people to write better rules, because that's prerogative for having a good game come out there is that you can actually write rules that people understand and can sit down and play the game from. And there have been examples of very badly written rules, just like I'm not sure what we're going to go do with this thing. How does that even work here? So that it's a focus point more to things like if people go like, hey, I wanna get an auto home with me, then well they will need to put effort into these things. So that's why we want like, well, best game obviously, but also best presentation. We want good rules and best innovation because we want new ideas. And I mean, the community is not just about who's at Fastaval, but also to spread that out and maybe have new ideas bubble out into the whole sphere of board game designers out there to make better games for everybody. And the big home goal.
That's good. We also have a question in the chat from Anders. He's wondering if we are expected to send physical copies to the judges, or is it okay with a Tabletopia or other digital version?
Usually it's a physical copy. I can ask the main judge if something Tabletopia would be accepted, but I think because what the players at Fastaval are going to play will be physical copies, then the judges should also judge that. So it's the same experience. And personally, I also think it's nicer to actually play a physical game and have the components in hand than doing a digital copy. So up until now, everybody has always sent one physical copy to the judges. Which also means that people from outside Denmark might have a bit different deadlines than people who live just around the city where the judge lives. I mean, well, whether you're in Denmark or outside, right now with PostNord doesn't make a big difference in how long time it takes to send things. But some people are like, oh, I'll just put it on your doorstep. And other people are like, well, I have to send it in advance and be sure it makes it on time. Because the deadline is right before the judges go into a summer house together for an extended weekend and just play all the games and try them all out.
Okay, I think that's all the questions for now. If anyone has anything else, please be quick and let me know. But I want to give a big thank you to you, Rikke, for giving this presentation and answering all the questions. And I hope that everyone who hears this actually sends a pitch to Fastaval. Thank you very much, Rikke. And yes, we will take a short break of 10 minutes, and then we will continue with an open discussion about board game design or game design related topics of anyone's choice. And if you have any other questions about Fastaval, are you going to be here after the break as well, Rikke?
Yeah, I just thought I might just ask the main judge to see if he has an answer about the digital copy thing.
Okay, cool.
Lucky.
So if you come up with any questions about Fastaval, then you can ask them after the break. So let's take a break until 21:35. That's how we say it in Swedish. 5 past. Let's say in 10 minutes from now, and I will also stop the recording. Thank you everyone for joining tonight, and see you after the break. Bye for now.